woke employee who refused to work while mourning Roe versus Wade has been fired, according to this article by the New York Post. So, a woke Universal Music Group worker claims he was fired for speaking up about abortion rights after he admitted he refused to work because he was in mourning over the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. And to be frank, this is like just beyond stupid, right? Because there's so many people who do not understand what the overturning of Roe versus Wade actually means. Like, if you are pro choice, if that's the way that you go down, you would probably actually like overturning of Roe versus Wade because you probably live in a state, if you're pro choice, that leans more left. Thus, that state is going to be more free in terms of abortion. But if you are pro life, you most likely live in a state that leans right. Thus, that state is going to be way more restrictive on abortion, right? And then you got some states that are kind of like purple, where they're going to be like, okay, maybe abortion with restrictions, that sort of thing. Or maybe only abortion in certain circumstances, etc. Right? It's like, it's so weird seeing so many people freak out about the overturning of Roe versus Wade because the majority of them just simply don't understand what it actually means. So, Michael Lopez, a production coordinator at Universal Music Enterprises, blasted the company as anti gay for terminating a queer brown person during Pride Month for speaking up in defense of abortion rights, according to a lengthy note on LinkedIn that went viral last week. What? Like, how absurd is this sentence? So you're basically calling them anti gay, basically homophobic, and also pulling a race card because you simply decided not to work because you are lazy. Like, that is so absurd. Last Friday, like countless other folks, I was devastated by the news of the Supreme Court's attack on abortion rights, Lopez wrote. Paired with the flood of anti-queer and anti-trans legislation, it's been hard to process how companies expect us to be productive while our rights are being stripped away. Okay? So exactly what are your rights that are being stripped away? Like, what are the specific rights that are being stripped away? Because like making like a statement like that is so broad is like, okay, what is specifically affecting you in your community? Lopez then went on to explain that each Friday, one of my tasks was to process reports for upcoming releases and then to email his work to 275 people. But instead of doing the usual process reports, he wrote an email that read, I didn't do them today. I'm in mourning due to the attack on people with uteruses in the US. Federally guaranteed access to abortion is gone, the email continued. Okay, wow, so this is like a this is a really long thing. Let me see if I could nah. Okay, hold on. So let me try to read this. This is a little bit absurd. I'm a queer brown person and I was fired during Pride Month for speaking up in defense of abortion rights at Universal Music Enterprises. Bum 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 bum. Last Friday, like countless other folks, I was devastated by the news of the Supreme Court's attack on abortion rights, paired with the flood of blah 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 blah. Every Friday, subject line blah blah blah. I didn't do them today. I'm in mourning due to the attack on people with uteruses, blah 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 blah. Okay, I guess they're going to just keep continuing this thing. Okay, so Vivendi and Universal Music Group must stop donating to anti abortion, anti queer, and anti trans politicians. Politicians like Marsha Blackburn, Ken Buck, Victoria Spartz, etc., or expect more unproductive days, he wrote, signing off with yours in fury, Michael Lopez. See, this is the thing, right? Why do people think that they are important? Like, in any sense of the form, right? Like, I don't understand this, right? Like, if you are an employee to a massive corporation, which he is, where did you come up with the idea that you're not replaceable? Like, this is the problem with massive corporations. Every employee, including the CEO, is replaceable. So if you try to pull something to the point where you literally just do not work because you are lazy and you're making excuses, you can just get fired. You're going to get fired. Okay? And this is for also like any other job, but in a massive corporation, they're going to be even more heartless, right? If this is like more of like a family ran business, maybe not as cold in terms of like firing, but no business is going to be like, yeah, it's okay. Don't work just because you have personal feelings about something that is going on politically in the world. Like, that's so crazy. A spokesperson for Universal Music Group told the Post, as a matter of policy, we can't discuss an individual's personnel record. We can say that what was posted on social media is inaccurate. UMG has a long record of support for women's issues, the spokesperson said. As we wrote to our U.S. employees, UMG views reproductive health care as essential. In the wake of the recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe v. Wade, the company has extended its efforts to ensure that these important healthcare services remain accessible to employees. We also financially support nonprofit groups working in this area and offer a match for employees' contributions to those groups as well. After sending the loaded email, Lopez said he received several supportive replies from coworkers, but was told by manager to take the rest of the day off. When he returned to work the following Monday, he said he was greeted with a surprise Zoom video chat with HR. I was being let go for paraphrasing, not doing your job, disrupting the day of 275 people, and poor judgment, Lopez wrote. Which, by the way, is like, yeah, that's basically what happened. You got let go for, in your own words, that you didn't do your work. You didn't do it today. And also, you basically kind of involved yourself in your personal views with your fellow employees, which is just weird. Yeah, not good. So Lopez then said he sent a follow up to the email list informing his colleagues. Just got fired for this email from Friday, so they're letting you know where they stand on employees speaking out on politicians that support marginalization for folks like me, he reportedly wrote, according to his lengthy LinkedIn post. He opined, a brown queer person terminated during Pride Month speaking in support of abortion rights seems like that's exactly what America is all about right now. No, basically, Your massive corporation that you work for terminated you abruptly because it was obvious, because you admitted that you did not do your work and you disrupted the work of your fellow employees. Like, that's the reality of the situation, regardless of political views or whatever, right? If you basically say, like, hey, I'm not going to work today, I didn't work today because I'm so worried about what's going on politically in the country, like, that is just absurd, right? That is completely different than, like, saying, like, hey, my father is in the hospital and I got distracted because he got hit by a car. Okay, like that's a completely different like situation. That is a much more acceptable excuse for not doing your work because like a family medical emergency occurred. But you just basically being emotional and lazy, main thing lazy, right? It's like obviously you're going to get fired. So Lopez's note on LinkedIn went viral, generating more than 3,200 reactions, some 250 comments, and more than 60 shares. While some commenters were supportive, others were less sympathetic. One LinkedIn user called Lopez entitled, I agree, lazy, very, obviously ignorant. I pretty much agree with that one as well because they definitely don't understand Roe versus Wade. Yeah, this is pretty pathetic. You're a grown man pretending to have grief so unbelievably unbearable over something that will never affect you in any way that you can't perform a simple task at work. Keep in mind, he is a person who likes the same sex, who cannot get pregnant, thus cannot even have an abortion. So, this issue, this medical issue, this political issue, has really nothing to do with him at all. Another LinkedIn commenter wrote, if you just sent the report like they asked every Friday, would you have lost your job? Most likely no. I agree. The thing is, there's nothing wrong with this individual complaining about his political viewpoint, right? There's nothing wrong with him doing that. What's wrong is putting political issues, emotional issues in your job, bringing that to the workplace for a massive corporation that honestly just doesn't care about you, and you just think that they're like you're entitled to like their time, their money. No, like you can get replaced. And in some states, some corporations can literally fire you for any reason at all or for no reason, depending on the state. Like you could literally live in a state where a massive corporation could just be like, "Oh yeah, we're firing Tom today." Oh, why? Just felt like it. Like there's some states that will allow a company to do that, right? But the thing is, if you did just send the report and still complained on like social media or whatever, you're not going to get fired, most likely, because this massive corporation probably leans more to the left than the right. They probably wouldn't care about you bashing the overturning of Roe versus Wade or you complaining about it. They do care whether or not you're actually doing the job that they're paying you to do. The commenter added, you didn't lose your job based on your color or sexual orientation, so please stop thinking that. Your actions are childish cause for termination. And another straight shooting critic pointed out, you made a stand based upon a principle, but such stands come with consequences. That's what makes them brave. I respect your decision to withhold your labor as a form of protest but you left your employer little choice. I agree. Because the thing is, why would an employer be like, oh, yes, we're going to have this person stay on that will not work? By the way, labor costs are increasing. So let's see. And I bet he was in California. Good thing their governor wasted money telling people in Florida to leave for his state. Nah, 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 hey, 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 get buh, 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 buh. I would not be visiting Universal if I ever decide to go away. Americans are sick of the freak few. Come November, we steamroll the anti Americans. Do your reports? Then you won't get fired. Plus, if you think you shouldn't be fired during Pride Month and use it as an excuse, then you should just be fired for that. No one needs to flock to the streets to protest. This isn't 1973. We can see on social media heads are exploding, and these voters will take you to the voting booth. Vote blue. Bum 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 bum. Old saying, open mouth, insert foot. Hopefully, more companies will make it clear to their employees to leave their politics, informed or otherwise, outside of the building or company computers. It would even be better if the CEOs would stop pandering to every whining malcontent or activist group. They are all hypocrites and moral cowards. Here's a guy who received participation trophies at every level even though he accomplished nothing. I'm glad Universal stood up and put him on the unemployment line. No trophy this time. He probably never did his job properly anyway. He's probably been fudging it all along. He disrupted the day of 275 fellow employees because he wanted a day off to mourn a legal decision. What is he going to want when his cat dies or picks up and leaves his sorry butt? A week? The HR person who hired him needs to be shown the door as well. That's the thing, too. How can someone even, in the first place, get hired at a massive corporation like this when it would be like probably a lot of red flags that'd be like, hey, maybe this person isn't that hard of a worker. Okay, so here's the thing, right? So I'm going to read this two things and then we'll end it. So actually, the reason he got fired is even more basic. He got fired because he acted on an incorrect interpretation of what happened at the Supreme Court, coupled with a complete lack of the understanding of civics, another endorsement of the American educational system. And this person put, while you may be correct about his misunderstanding of the ruling, that's not why he was fired. He was fired because he was being paid to work and he admitted he refused to work. Same thing could happen with any other employee employer relationship. If they're paying you to do a job, do it. Or deal with the consequences that may ensue. That's how it works in real life. That's the reality. This thing, this sentence right here sums up this whole thing, right? If you're being paid to do a job, just do the job. Don't overcomplicate it. Just do the job. And here's the thing, right? If you were to manage your finances right, which this guy probably did not do, if you manage your finances right to where you're out of debt, you got a big emergency fund, talking about like 3 to 6 months of expenses, right? Personally, I prefer like more of like a year plus, but if you have 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund, you're debt free, which by the way, if you want to learn how to do that, go to 40inbox.com. And you have money already going towards your retirement, or have money in your retirement already growing with compound interest, you can make statements like this, like he did. He could basically do what he did and not really care too much about the consequences, even if you were to get fired, because you have 3 to 6 months to find another source of income, right? Which would be pretty easy to do if you have any sort of skill set or if you're willing to simply do a job that you're paid for, right? So that's something to really understand as well. This is why it's very important to manage your money well, to manage your finances well, because if a company, wherever your moral foundation is, if a company goes against your specific moral foundation, it gives you the freedom to be like, hey, I'm not okay with what this company is doing. I'm going to stick by my morals, not anyone else's, not the company's, my morals, and I'm okay with all the consequences that might come my way because I can financially deal with it, right? Because there's a lot of people that don't speak up about bad moral actions by some massive corporations because financially speaking, if they were to speak up and if they were to get fired, their whole life could be potentially destroyed. They might become homeless, etc., etc., etc. But if you got money in the bank, money going towards retirement already, and you got an emergency fund, you don't really got too many bills to pay because you're debt free. You can pretty much do whatever you want within reason.